Are you ready to learn about conditions and route rules? These are really important concepts. Understanding these will allow an API engineer to control an API proxy behavior and route the traffic to the correct endpoints for processing. Let's get started. Conditions enable API proxies to behave dynamically at runtime by using the HTTP verbs such as get and post, and using the request URI path and/or using flow variables in the API call. The API engineer has an endless amount of options and maximum flexibility to meet whatever challenges they face for processing requests. A few other things to note. Conditions are Boolean, so they are always evaluated to true or false. And conditions can also be chained together. For example, you can include the and/or keywords as shown here. And for the format of the conditions, you can see the basic pattern here. The order is important, so know this basic structure and you'll be good to go. So let's talk more about conditions and show the different types of conditions. A policy is executed provided that the condition is true. For example, the XML to JSON policy will execute only if the accept request header is application/JSON. It's important to note that if you try to access a flow variable that is out of scope, you will receive a null value. If you try to set a flow variable before it's in scope, the proxy does nothing. It does not generate an error, and it does not set the variable. You can also control when a flow executes by including a flow condition. For example, get request flow will execute provided the request verb is get. Note, it is best practice to create a catch-all conditional flow with no condition after your conditional flows. From this flow, you can return an error message indicating that there was no matching condition for the request, typically a 404. Since the conditional flows are evaluated top to bottom, only the first one that evaluates to true is executed. Make sure to put your catch-all flow last. The target endpoint route selection controls the target endpoint invoked by the proxy endpoint configuration. For example, the first route rule will route the request to the XML target endpoint only if the content type header is text/XML. We'll talk more about route rules in a minute, but note route rules indicate conditions unless it is the default route rule as shown in the second example. Let's discuss pattern matching. There are many pattern matching options as can be found in our documentation, but we'll call out three commonly used pattern matching: matches, Java regex, and matches path. Matches gives you two possibilities: either match the string literally or do a wildcard match with an asterisk. Remember that the match is case sensitive. There's also two other ways to write matches. Matches can be replaced with a tilde symbol or with the word like. These three lines will execute exactly the same way. Most engineers have a preferred way to do this, but they all mean the same thing. Java regex allows regular expression pattern matching, and Apogee Edge follows the same rules as the classes in Java's regex package. The match is also case sensitive. The nice thing about Java regex is it allows fine-grained control over conditions and is familiar to Java developers. Similar to matches, there's a shorter way to write this. For Java regex, this can be replaced with double tilde as noted on this slide. Matches path is similar to matches, but gives the additional flexibility of using double asterisks. The single asterisk matches one path element. The double asterisk matches one or many path elements. Again, the path is case sensitive, so be careful when typing. Like matches in Java regex, there's simpler ways to represent the same thing for matches path. These three lines will execute exactly the same way by replacing the matches path with tilde// or with like path. Now let's turn our attention back to route rules. The route rule tag as a proxy endpoint definition determines which target endpoint will handle the request. The route rule also allows the API the flexibility to route to multiple target endpoints. For example, instead of the single route rule shown, we could modify this weather API to send requests to 3 different backend servers. such that the API gets current weather data from one backend server, historical data from another backend server, and image data from a third backend server. Route rules allow you to perform this. Another example of where multiple target endpoints may exist is when the data being requested may be on different backend servers, such as often the case when companies merge and customer data is on multiple systems. The API proxy can be modified to route traffic to multiple systems based on criteria entered, thus allowing a single API proxy to send data back to the developer regardless of the target backend that has the data. Here we show 3 route rules. The system will go from top to bottom to evaluate these rules, and the first one that comes back with true will be executed, and all the other route rules will be ignored. The first route rule shown is called a null route, where the system can return data without having to be directed to a backend server. And the last route rule is called a default route. This should always be placed last in the order and is the catch-all where all prior route rules were false and ensures each request has a route rule. Placing the default route rule earlier in the sequence would be a mistake, as it would ignore any route rules after the default route rule. So there you have it, conditions and route rules, allowing API engineers to enable API proxies to behave dynamically at runtime and routing traffic to the correct target endpoints. For more information on this topic, refer to our documentation. If you have any questions, please post them on our community. Thank you.